So in front of me here is all of the gear that I used in 2023 for my photography and YouTube business. It all fits into 2 bags with 2 people carrying it. I need to cull this down so that all of this gear fits into 1 bag. And that's what I'm going to be doing in this video and the next video. So I've placed all of the photography gear here behind me because in this video I want to talk about the videography gear that I use for my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is probably the most important part of my business because without it, I don't have a photography business. So let's go over the gear that I used in 2023 and I will show you what I'm going to get rid of and what I'm going to keep for 2024. So the main camera I use is the Canon EOS R with a 24mm lens. It's a fantastic camera when on a tripod, but with the nature of macro photography and I'm running around, the wife has to chase me around with this thing. So additionally, I added some handles to the rig to help us stabilize the footage, and we also have a field world field monitor which helps you to nail the exposure no matter what situation we are in, because you have false colors on this field monitor. So we have all that. To get the exposure correct, we have the freewheel variable ND filter set. Those are absolutely fantastic. There's videos on my channel that cover the use of that. Sometimes when we are doing a video, we just want to get raw footage or we want to do a very quick video. In that case, I will just use my iPhone. Now, stabilization in that is actually pretty good, but for better stabilization, I have this. This is the Holem M6 gimbal for smartphones. I have got a review for that coming up soon on the channel, so keep an eye out for that. A very nice gimbal that also features AI tracking. We have a video micro mic here. I use this microphone to capture the ambient sound when we're out and about doing outdoor photography. That way the sound in the background when I'm talking all merges together nicely and gives a nice sound. We have a pocket of SD cards. I have my lavalier mic, which we use every time we go outdoors. The lav mic then plugs into my Zoom F2 field recorder. We have a light here, so when we're doing low light filming, I can light myself with a light, and of course we have the batteries for that. I have the batteries for my camera, torches for when we're out and about in low light. I have a multi-tool just in case any of these step-up rings that we use get stuck. They frequently do. And I have a color checker. This thing is very important because it enables me to get accurate colors when I'm out filming. That goes for the talking head sections and for the B-roll and the macro videography that I do. Always do that. We just take a sample of that and then we can color grade it afterwards. I also have one of my Soonwell tube lights. Sometimes we take that out with us if it is a low light situation. And then for some B-roll, I have my macro clip-on lenses for my iPhone. One is the Moment, the other one is the Apex or 100mm. So I need to cull this down because there's just way too much gear for me to take out if I was to go out on my own. And sometimes I do go out on my own. What's that? Stu, if your EOS R is on the desk, what are you using to record this video? I'm glad you asked that question because there's one piece of gear that I can get that will replace almost all of this gear, and that is the Sony ZV-E1. The Sony ZV-E1 is an absolutely fantastic video camera. I'm going to go over why I've got the Sony now and why I've switched from Canon, and that's basically price. It's as simple as that. For me to get the features that's in this Sony ZV-E1, I would have to spend around £4,000 on a Canon. Yeah, that's a bit pricey compared to the Sony ZV-E1. My Canon EOS R films in 4K, but only up to 30 frames a second. The 4K is also a cropped 4K and an 8-bit footage, meaning you've got no leeway after you've recorded your footage if you do make any errors or if you want to be creative with any kind of colour LUTs. The EOS R doesn't have much stabilization. It also suffers from bad rolling shutter, which means that most of the time we have to lock this camera off on a tripod to get the best out of the footage. And if I want to record any type of slow motion, I have to drop the resolution down to 1080p to get 60 frames a second. The Sony, on the other hand, will record a full frame 4K up to 120 frames per second. That's very nice for some slow motion footage. It will record in a 10-bit 422 format. This is a massive upgrade to what I'm currently using with the EOS R. with intelligent autofocus. It just nails the autofocus every single time. And the active stabilization is absolutely fantastic in this camera, which means I don't need the Canon EOS R, which suffers heavily from a massive rolling shutter issue on this camera. So we always have to keep it locked up on a tripod. So that can go. We're not going to be needing that EOS R because we have the Sony. The Sony is great at nailing the exposure as well, but we do have access to built-in zebras, which is fantastic. We have the histogram that is on when recording. With the EOS R, the histogram turns off when you press record. No idea why it does that, but an absolute pain. And also I downloaded a third-party LUT that gives me a false color look on the Sony, which means we no longer need the field monitor. We will need the ND filters. That's something that's always needed. Because of the stabilization, I'm not going to be needing my small rig handles. It beats the iPhone hands down, so I don't need the iPhone. And we won't need the gimbal for the iPhone. However, I will be keeping hold of the gimbal because sometimes the iPhone is great just to take it out and start filming with it. So I will keep hold of that for now. We have the light that we use for doing nighttime filming. Now, the Sony is an absolute beast in low light. So this I might not necessarily need. I do have to test it out because not only do we need light for exposure, but we also need light to shape our faces. But for now, I'm going to retire that light and keep it as a studio light only. That goes for these batteries. I'm not going to need these batteries because we have the Sony batteries now. That brings us down to the microphone. I will need that. I always record ambient sound when I'm out and about, so we will need that. This I'm not going to need. This is a Manfrotto quick release plate. I have a small rig cage on the Sony which has Arca Swift built in, which means it goes directly onto my tripod. It's a Suri ST224 with a platy ball on the top there. If I'm ever doing any type of tripod shot, I will always use the best tripod and ball head I have access to, which is those two. Color checker, very important. We will be keeping that. The torches are important. And then that brings us to our macro rigs for my phone. Now, obviously my phone is always in my pocket. So although that's here and it does go out of us, it's not in the bag. So it's not really counted as being in the bag. But we do have these options here and I have to pick one. So we have the Apexel, great little piece of kit. The Apexel has a built-in LED light. And then we also have moment lenses, which are brilliant. And I'm going to go with the moment lenses for this year, for the simple fact that this little pouch clips onto my belt. I have access to a macro lens and a 58mm lens as well for filming. And again, it doesn't go in the bag. It goes on my belt, which is fantastic. So those will be called. So this here is what needs to go in my bag. Obviously, the tripod will go on the bag. So I have cooled it all down to the Sony ZV-E1 and the gear that you see here on the table. And I have to say, that's a lot of space saved by simply upgrading the main camera, which I'm very happy about. If you want me to talk about or do a video about the Sony ZV-E1, then let me know in the comments below and I will do that for you. Also, if you see anything on here you want more information about, let me know in the comments below and I'll see if I can do a video about it. That's where I'm going to leave this video. In the next video, I'm going to be taking all of my photography gear and I'm going to cool that down so that it fits into the bag along with the video gear. There are going to be some sacrifices made, but until that video, I'll see you later. Thank you for sticking to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, then please subscribe and click the like button. It really does help out the channel. I want to thank my Patreon supporters for their continued support in supporting me and this channel. If you're interested in joining Patreon, then check in the description below this video for a link to Patreon. If you want to continue watching my macro journey, then click one of the videos in front of you now.